Hey guys, back again, Monsterforge here, and we left off with this little guy in this condition, but he's been cooked. So the soft bits now are hard, and don't have to worry about messing things up when you touch it. Uh, if you were the uncured Sculpey, touching it would leave marks everywhere, but it's hard. Now, sorry if my voice is a little scratchy in places because I'm still uh, under the weather. But anyway, if you wanted to, the surface here, you can etch it. You can make little marks on it with something, a sharp tool. I'll show you what I do a lot of times whenever I'm making my figures, like this little guy right here. I will put my mark on it. That's one thing that I've started doing just lately with these little guys. So what I'll do is I'll put the Monsterforge mark, and you can do this only when it's cured. I mean, if it's soft, you can do it, but you have to be careful because it'll get smooched out working with it. But anyway, I just when it's cooked like this, it's kind of fragile, so you can just kind of scrape it out. Let's see, that's one mark. Just making an M. It's real easy to carve this stuff at this stage. It's a little on the flaky side. M for monster and making an F. And this is what's called subtractive sculpting. This is when you're taking away. And I had a friend years ago that used to work with Sculpey, and he would bake just a clump. He'd bake a clump of Sculpey, and trying to see if you can see that. Yeah, but that's a good way to mark it. But anyway, he would bake a clump of Sculpey and he would carve it. He wouldn't add it on like I do. So we had totally different art styles, but our art styles kind of complemented each other's. And we did some collaborations back in the day. But anyway, time once again to add some stuff, and I don't really know still. I don't have an idea what I'm going to do with this guy, but I kind of, I think I'm going to start developing his face here. Because we're getting to the point where the face is going to meet the body, because I want him to have kind of a large face. So I just add a chunk that's roughly face shaped. I have to keep remembering to keep it down here because I have a tendency to work on it up here. But anyway, I put a blob on, and I'm kind of smoothing it out in a face shape. And I can change this at any time. I'll get a little bit of alcohol, kind of smooth it up a bit. Now, this is just a base to add to. I'm going to go ahead and blend it to the body like I've been showing you. And this way, for one thing, it won't pull away so easily whenever you blend it like this. So if you do shift things around, it will stay in place. Sorry about the snort. Ugh. It sucks to be sick, guys. But anyway, so right now he has a roughly human shape. I'm going to change that because I don't want him to look like a human. He or she, I haven't decided yet. So I'm going to start working on some shapes here for what I'm going to do with this guy. I kind of like the idea of the baggy look that he's got going so far with the folds and everything. So I'm kind of thinking droopy, like trying to keep everything kind of droopy and gloppy. It's a little bit too human right now, in my opinion. So I'll do some subtraction from that. I get my little loop tool. I'm gonna pull this down. Kind of leave an open space here. Now, different people work different ways with clay. Some people plan things out all the way when they're working on stuff like this. And they would have sketches that they would work from. And believe me, I do a lot of sketching, but it doesn't always wind up being the way it's going to look. Kind of, again, hands are in the wrong place. You know, I'm just playing with it right now and letting it decide what it wants to do. It's a little bit too scary right now. I want him to be a little bit cuter, with a little bit of scary in there. And you see, if you mess up at this point, you can just pull off the clay that you were working with and start over again. I think I'm going to make this guy kind of a happy monster. So with that in mind, I'm going to get roughly a smile shape to start off with and base everything around the smile. So, you know, you've got a curve like a smile, and this will fit with his belly section here. And just kind of pull that out. Smooth that around a little bit. And that's sort of the basis to where his face will kind of be almost like the belly of this thing hanging down. Smooth it out a little bit. Smooth it onto the blank. Let's see. Now, I'll be sculpting this guy in many parts. So this is just one step along the way. Now, he has a little bit of a smile, and I can kind of base things around that. That's got more of the attitude I was looking for. Not quite as scary. I mean, I do sculpt scary things, but right now I'm trying to keep everything a little bit more whimsical. Just add some bloops right here. I'll smooth all this stuff out later with alcohol and a brush and my other tools. Just kind of building up around this. I do want to keep... I want to keep an area right around here to add the arms. So, yeah. Once again, I'm going to do the old Play-Doh snake bit. And add that here to the back. I want the arms to have a way to come through, so I'm leaving like a little hole here for the arms. Just kind of, let's see, I'm going to do that a little bit longer. And have that go around and over here, like that. Now, do like we did before with the nut pick tool and just sort of smooth it in. The key thing is keeping everything smooth, because I want this to be kind of a fleshy, baggy, just goofy, goopy guy. And let's see. Well, give his folds a little push again like we did before with the other folds. Alright. So now he's got a place for his little arms to come out. He'll probably have his little hands coming around here and holding his belly when we're through, because that's kind of a standard design thing with a lot of the little figures I do. They have their little hands sitting on their bellies or whatever. I just think it's cute. Makes me think of a little old fat man patting his belly after he's finished eating a big meal. So you can see he's got kind of a design, a bit of similarity in design, continuity throughout the whole figure of these droopy little folds. And I'm just gonna take the brush now and kind of smooth things out a little bit. Don't be afraid to use a lot of alcohol. It's really your best friend whenever you're sculpting and trying to get things smooth. And the thing about it is no matter how wet you get it, it's going to dry out in just a few minutes because it's alcohol. It evaporates. You can get your clay too wet, but it doesn't really matter whenever it's applied to the figure already. Just be aware that when you're adding a lot of alcohol to it, it sometimes can cause it to peel away a little bit easier. So after you use it, just be kind of gentle with it when you're adding more in the next step. Now, I want to carve this mouth out some. And so this is where you got to be careful because it's all wet and it could pull it straight off of the blank if you're not careful. So just kind of carefully pull that through, not too rough. And let's see. Now we've got kind of a gaping mouth hole here, which before I add any more to this, I want to smooth it up a good bit, and I also am going to cook it because I don't want anything to mess up the smoothness of that cut that I've established now. I'm going to be adding teeth into this guy, so because even though he's goofy, I do want him to have I want him to be a monster. So, monsters always have big teeth. And so I'm going to add some teeth in there. And so I want to have some area to work. I haven't decided yet how I'm going to do the teeth. But I kind of have in mind, and wet your tools sometimes too. That'll help smoothing things out. I kind of have in mind maybe putting a little strip of teeth in there instead of doing them individually. Sometimes that works to give it more of a cartoony look, and you'll see whenever we do it. I haven't decided though. I might just put them in individually. I think I might put a big chunk on his back so I get a big plug, about big around as a nickel, I guess, something like that. Kind of roll it out. You're not going for a really long snake this time. Kind of taper it on the ends, because what I want to do is I want to kind of balance out that smile in the front with a big old chunk on the back. And you can kind of make it join around like that. But, you just kind of smooth it out with your fingers, roughly. Kind of pat it down to fit with the folds. So this is almost like, you know, the big chunk of fat that's on the back of a fat guy's neck. And I'm freely allowed to talk about fat guys because I am one. No shade. Um, Once again, just smoothing as you go. And you're recreating little details that make him your own monster. Whenever you make your own, if you want to, anybody that's following along, if you are so inspired to make your own, and I really hope you do. I always love hearing stories from people that anytime I've ever posted, I used to post some of my tips on Facebook, and people would say, "Oh man, you inspire me to create," and that honestly, that's why I'm doing this stuff. You know, my videos aren't really professional level, so I'm not making any money really off of them. This is just, you know, people ask me, how do you do so and so? And, you know, I want people to learn. And if somebody gets inspired by any of this stuff, that's bonus. That really is, you know, that's the best thing that I could hear. So if you want to share, you know, if you're making things and you're inspired by this, I'd love to know, because it's all about creation's all about sharing what you have. You know, if you're a creative person, share what you make. And it might brighten somebody's day up. I love hearing about what my friends have made. I've made some really good friends over the years, and they most of them are very creative, and I'm very proud of the work that they do, and I love seeing what they do. Um, One of my old buddies, Ralph. I hope I'm pronouncing Ralph's name correctly. It's Ralph Nice. He's from Germany, and he's a fantastic artist, and he shares his work on Instagram. And I always get a little bit excited. Okay, I'm lying. I get a lot excited when I see that Ralph has posted something, because it's like, oh boy, you know, because Ralph is such a creative guy. And really, all of my friends are that way. I love it. I don't, you know, I'm not targeting Ralph or saying Ralph is the bestest. Um, I think they're all really good, and I'm excited every time I see anybody's creativity on there. Now you might notice as I've been working, I've been kind of shaping things and trying to keep it a little bit symmetrical on each side. Um, you can kind of line it up when you look at it and see, you know, are the arms the same height? You know, the insertion point for the arms. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect either. Remember, these are monsters. They're misshapen monstrosities. Um, but you can see I've kind of smoothed out some of the places here. And you can keep doing that until it really feels like a living thing. Um, and you'll notice it starts to, if you look at it, it starts to turn into like a milky liquid. Um, Whenever the alcohol is basically breaking down the little particles of the clay, um, and you know, as it's breaking it down, it makes it sort of a goopy liquid. Use that. You can push that liquid into cracks and crevices and make it even smoother with it. And you can also use it to make textures if you want to in the surface, like real subtle textures. You can use your brush to do that. Um, like I said, anything that makes a mark is gonna make a difference. Now, I want to add two little pieces here to kind of solidify that this head is a separate part. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, I'm trying to pick it up without messing up any of the clay. You see how the head comes here and it sort of dips in? I want to take a piece of clay, and you see I've got a little bit of paint stuck in the clay, but that's all right, because I'll be painting this anyway. And that's going to be part of these videos too, is the painting process that goes into making one of these guys. But yeah, I just wanted to make this all seem like all one piece here. So you see the shape of the head kind of goes around, like this is the back of the head. And once again, going to smooth it out a little bit. Just adding that extra piece. And I'll keep adding to it as I go. But the cooking part is, essential, because otherwise, the more you work on this while it's still uncured, the better chance you have of messing up the work you've done. So I'm going to add that same little part over here. Just kind of smooth it in down here. Just kind of keeping it smooth, keeping it, the idea of that's part of the head there, like the back of the head. Kind of starting to get an idea of where this guy's going to go. The mouth is really key to me. Getting that mouth in there. We're going to do some crazy stuff with this guy before we're done. So, yeah, my voice is starting to go, which is a good sign that I need to shut up and get this guy smoothed up, and then I'll throw him in the oven. 250 degrees in a conventional oven. There's a lot of people that talk a lot of smack about Sculpey, that it's very dangerous to use, but I've been using Sculpey for, just a better part of 20 years now, and I haven't died yet. I don't think so. I mean, I feel dead sometimes, but I haven't died yet. For one thing, if you follow the instructions, it's perfectly fine to use. The problems with Sculpey come in whenever you cook it too long and too hot. And actually, I have been around. My friend that I was talking about, that does the subtractive sculpting. Sorry for the snort. He put Sculpey one time in an oven at his house at 400 and something degrees, and just kind of left it in there, and it did the thing that Sculpey does. It starts producing a noxious fume. Noxious is not the same as toxic. Noxious is, you just can't stand to be around it. It made all of us cough. Made us a little nauseous from smelling the smoke. And like I said, nobody died, but that's just one thing to be aware of. If you cook your Sculpey about 250 or 225 in the oven, you won't have that happen. I've left Sculpey in the oven for way too long before at 250. Just kind of didn't think about it and left it in there while I was working on something else, and it was fine. You just smell the smell of cooking Sculpey, and after a while you get used to that smell. So anyway, no biggie. And you might have noticed I was putting a little bit of texture in here, and that's something that you'll want to do with your Sculpey that's not cured yet. Kind of give him a little bit of personality in his wrinkles. Folds on top of folds on top of folds. And you can use... I don't know what I did with my tool that I was showing yesterday. Oh, here it is. It's that little X-Acto knife handle. The knockoff X-Acto knife. The soft edge of it, sort of rounded. And you can use anything. You can use like a pin bottom. Just test out on a piece of uncooked clay before you use it on your big projects, and just test what kind of mark it makes. Like sometimes you'll grab a pen or a pencil or something and go to make a mark, and it doesn't turn out quite the way you want, or maybe you'll learn a new thing. I don't know. But always test it before you really use it for anything. You want to know full well what kind of marks your stuff will make. And it's a good time to mention, experiment. Grab just household stuff and test out what kind of marks you can make with it. Whenever you're creating a creature, just remember one of the most interesting things about creature design is little details that make them look, interesting, visually interesting. Kind of went a little bit overboard there. Let me smooth that out. Yeah, just anything to make them visually interesting. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I used a little bit of the brush to smooth out down there, and I want to keep that continuity across the sculpt. That's one bad thing you can do is not follow the same techniques all the way through a sculpt. And, if you're wanting it to be like an organic creature, you want it to look like it's all one piece. That's what you're going for there. So I'll use the brush to kind of give it a little bit of a texture. And I'm seeing now as I run the liquid over, the alcohol over the cured parts that, yeah, that's exactly what I did, was I used this to kind of go back and forth and build up a little bit of texture on it. And that's what I'll do here. And that's good because, the more texture, the better, especially if you're planning on painting your piece, which I am. Textures are wonderful because you can use all different types of painting techniques to bring out little details in the sculpt that you don't even see with your eye. Like if you've ever seen a minifigure or like an action figure it's all one color, sometimes you lose some of the detail in the sculpt, but if you paint it and use a dry brush technique to bring out the sculpted bits, it really, really makes it pop. It's a lot of fun. But I'm calling it quits right here for one reason. I need to quit because I'll start messing up the sculpt or going overboard with it. Second of all, my voice is giving out on me. And third of all, the video is getting long. Third of all. Listen to me. Anyway, I'll be back with more later, probably tomorrow. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up right down here. If you really, really, really like this and want to follow it, you can subscribe, which is somewhere down here underneath the video frame. But yeah, and leave a comment. I love reading comments, especially the nice ones. But if I'm I'm just somebody you don't like, you can leave a nasty one. But leaving nasty comments just isn't all that nice. Anyway, hope you all have a good one. Take care, have fun, and sculpt some today. Goodbye.